All right, people. You know what time it is. It's time for another open court discussion in the Counselor's Corner. I'm your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the Controversial Counselor. Joining me is my co host, the Big Bad Wolf, Herb Lewis.
Oh,
Oh, that was a little long. I don't know. People might be
yeah.
in trouble tonight. And like always, our panel is a Showtime decision. Showtime decision. Recap from this past Monday show. We discussed the topic: Are unrealistic standards and expectations killing relationships? Please check out the replay on YouTube, the YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor, or the short clips on TikTok, Facebook, IG, and YouTube. Our next order of business is tonight, October 9th. We will be discussing: Would you remain with your mate if they became disabled? So, when I look at the average ages of the people or the range of people that are members of the Counselors Corner group, which is 45 to 54, this is something we need to think about as our bodies start to decline. Are you in it for the long haul? I want you to think about these three questions. Are there any positives with being with someone who is disabled? What are some lessons to be learned about being with someone with a disability? And three, the impact of a disability in a relationship. Let these questions marinate in your mind, and hopefully you brought your thoughts to the Counselor's Corner tonight. Please like and share our video and keep on subscribing to the YouTube channel. We're 3 subs away from 750. Let's get it so we can push toward this 800. All right, so we here. What's going on, good people that join us? Jocelyn, Larice, thanks for joining. And we'll start it off with our typical um, housekeeping conversation. So what's going on, her big bad wolf?
Man, other than Dallas getting smacked, and as you can see, people, the pocket doors closed. That means it's cold in this mother. So it's time to start conserving heat. But and other than Dallas getting smacked, the temperature dropping, I got nothing to complain about. Started sanding the floors in this house. I'm gonna redo them all. I'm gonna paint the houses. I've been in the house 11 years next month, so it's time to start getting things situated. Gonna paint uh, the doors as you see them now. I'm gonna restore them to their natural color, which is actually a wood grain. They were painted over, so almost got the garage finished. I know I've been saying that for an eternity, so as long as the weather holds up, hopefully I had that done in the next couple of weeks. I got some other things I need to touch up in here, and it's it's life. That's life. It's life.
All right, me same old, same old. Every day is every day is a interesting battle at the schoolhouse. Again, some of the things that they say just amazes me, and like I always say, so many similarities with middle school to to adults, which reminded me of a conversation the other day I had with a young lady, an eighth grader. She was like, "Man, Mr. Glover," looking at her phone, and I had posted it, and she was like, and I was like, what? And she was like, "Man, these boys do more crying and whining. Than they worse than girls. They like girls." Then it reminded me of some of the things that's posted on social media on a regular basis with women saying these men are acting like little girls. So I'm like, and we had a great conversation because it turned into um, kind of the highest level. Where she ended up saying something like why would grown men act like little girls. Shouldn't these women be married? And I said, not everybody is married. I said, some people been married and some people end up getting a divorce. And then she was like, I don't think you should get married until you like around 40. And then I said, a lot of times they say that's when men should get married because they're at their, highest level far as making money. In their mid 30s to 40s and 50s, that's when they, may have their highest earning income power. And then, we went on to converse some more, and I said, so the thing about women, I said, you can't, and I know some women that dispute this because y'all think that y'all can have babies when y'all 60. Uh, but she went on to say that I got to go to college, I got to do all these different things, so I'm not trying to get married. And I said, well, sometimes a man may want you to have, end up having a child when you get older, so you don't want to be too old because um, it could be risky pregnancy. So these is the kind of conversations that as life you know like teachable moments that kids remember. It's not always about American history or whatever the case is. So when I have the opportunity to have these conversations, it's always it's meaningful and it's impactful because you can see their antennas going up, and they typically they hold on to some of the, especially if they trust and believe in you, they kind of hold on to the words that you say. Let's see. Let me read a couple of these comments. Johnson said, my fiance had to have heart transplant. Found out as I was just finishing cancer treatment. Still together and still going strong. It's great for y'all. Great. Um, Laurie said, yes, I would because I truly love the man's everything. And Johnson says 60. Having one at 35 was tough. Yeah, so that's why I wanted to kind of let her know, like, it's kind of a double edged sword. Like you want to be able to be independent and do your thing, but you might get with someone and they may say, hey, well, it's time for us to work on a family, and but her goals may be like, I'm trying to go to college, I'm trying to do this and take care of myself financially. So those are things that have to be kind of discussed. What's going on, Jerry? How you doing? I said I would definitely. My wife stuck with me through 3 rounds of cancer. Marriage is for life, in sickness and in health. Yes, sir. Glad you seem to be doing well. Keep pushing, brother. Stay strong. Stay strong. Need you out there. Need strong soldiers that's well grounded. All
And
right.
you know
So
that. Go ahead, Dave.
no, you go. I'm done. I'm pretty much done.
I was gonna say that brings up his and be continue to be blessed, young brother. That brings up a very vital thing with this. The institution of marriage isn't what it was. So that begs the question: when people start to get in relationships, what actually binds you to the other? In addition to the questions that David asked at the top of the show, I'm going to add four more. What, to whom, why, and what happens if you're not loyal? Now, years ago, being divorced, especially for a woman, you were looked at as some sort of a pariah. Not that you were a bad person, but just what did you do to end your marriage? That was the assumption. Whether it was wrong or right is a different story. So the question becomes, what are you loyal to? Especially if you don't get married. Whom are you loyal to? Are you loyal to yourself, your mate, your family? And when I say your family, I'm talking about the ones you created with the person you're with, whether you're married or not. And what happens if you decide to end that relationship? So those are some of the things, bear in mind when we, when we start to go down this one. Now, before I get too far ahead, there is a movie. And y'all know how I like to always talk about movies. I know y'all probably hate my
Here
movie
we
references.
go,
So
talking about that Titanic shit again.
nope, nope. This is a movie that I'm quite sure nobody listening to this show, whether it's current or in uh in a rebroadcast, has probably heard of, and it's called The Best Years of Our Life. It was shot in 1946, so yes, it's black and white. All right,
Said
just bear with me
1940,
now. Just
1946.
man, I stay on YouTube with the old school movies, man, because they're very. This one was extremely poignant, very well acted, and very well directed. It chronicles a story about three men getting out of the military, going back home to a small city, some fictitious city in the Midwest named Boone City. One was in the Navy, one was in the Army, and one was in the Air Force. The gentleman that was in the Navy served on an aircraft carrier, and during an attack, he lost both of his arms from here down. Came back with hooks. He knew how to use them, but his concern was that his fiance, who he left before the Nuki, watch it. You'll like it. It really ties in with the topic we're talking about. Um, he was worried about how he would be received. So he kind of became a recluse unto himself. He stayed with moved back with his father, obviously, or his mother and his father, I should say. Now, the second gentleman was an older gentleman. When he left, he had teen kids. He was in the military for 20 years, came back, his kids are adult. The daughter's working in the hospital, the son moved on to college. And his wife is, she's steady Eddie, rock solid. I mean, I've rarely seen somebody, real life or a movie, who held a family together the way she did. And it was just like, if I'm going to have a wife and I disappear and I come back, I want that woman to be my wife. So when he got back, it was as if nothing had really changed between those two. And then you had the other gentleman who was in the Air Force. He was a captain. Came back. Now he had just gotten married. 2 months into his marriage, he shipped off to the military. Comes back, struggles to find a job, and his wife, who's by any stretch of imagination a knockout, had went off, got her job, was doing well for herself, and he came back and he couldn't find employment. He was having a problem struggling, adjusting, and meanwhile he had kind of fallen into the arms of another female. So you have your love triangle. Now the other female happens to be the daughter of the man who served in the military, and he kind of viewed the guy as a romancer. So you have all these things playing together, and at the end of the movie, and I don't want to spoil it, the individual who was struggling to adjust with the hooks, he ends up getting married to his fiance, and the one relationship ends up dissolving. So you have all three of those microcosms playing in the same movie, with all the characters playing a role. And that's why I posted that in the counselor's corner, because I wanted people to watch that movie and pick a person and ask what would they do if they were that person. Because like I said, without the bind of marriage, people are free to come and go as they choose, because there is no repercussions. Nobody's going to say anything if you leave a long-term relationship. Even if you have kids, they're going to say, well, what do you plan on doing? They're not going to say, well, what about the kids? That's a foregone thought now. It's almost as if, oh, well, the kids going to be kids. Who cares if they suffer some kind of childhood trauma? There's always therapy for that. And the thing becomes, not that I'm against therapy, but why are we always pushing people towards therapy when the fix is in the hands of the people who are creating the problems? These are the things that people never talk about, when they first start dating. What are we going to do if you get pregnant? Are we going to get married? Are we going to move in together? Are we going to co parent effectively? None of that is discussed. So then we wonder why we end up with people being disloyal. We wonder why we end up with people not giving a damn about what happens to lives that them and another person create, whether you're male or female, whatever the case is. So all this stuff, um, I wish people would actually reconsider, you know, when they start dealing with each other, especially if it becomes physical, because the physicality usually comes first long before romance even becomes an issue. Before I pass the mic, I'm going to ask a philosophical question. Okay, I want you to understand it's a philosophical question. It doesn't necessarily need to be answered, but the answer will reveal something about what you're loyal to. You come to a river. The river is as wide as you can see, is as long as you can see. You have a choice of three items for this river. You have a boat, your potential mate, and then oar, so you can paddle. You only get to choose two. Which two do you choose? No right or wrong answer. It's only a philosophical answer, right?
You said a boat, an
Mm-hmm.
or
And your
your one.
prospective mate.
Mm,
It's no right or wrong answer. It only shows where an individual's mind and heart is.
well, clearly, gonna go with the boat and your significant other, and should we would have to be creative together to figure out this or situation, whether we had to use our arms or something. I don't know, but I just wouldn't see leaving her along and me just rolling along and carrying on, and so we would have to go out together. So it'd have to be the boat and the lady.
Now you have some now, and see, and I think this comes an answer like that comes along with age, because as we get older, our priorities shift. So at 22, 23, I may have answered that differently. I would choose the same thing you chose as well. I think at 22, 23, I'm like, you know what? I'm strong. I'm young enough. Give me that boat and that oar. I'm gonna paddle, and I'm just gonna paddle. Somebody's gonna ask, well, where the hell you gonna go? Who you gonna go with? I don't know. I don't care. I'll find something. I'll find someone. And that's the way we were when we were younger. Somebody was asking us. I remember people used to ask me about kids in the family. Kids. Nah, man. Mm-mm. And I was always anti-kid, even though I was out here doing things that was the total antithesis of being a parent. But I had also made the statement that if I produced a child, I would stop dating until that child was an adult, because I felt personally, especially growing up the way I did, that that child deserved to have a proper upbringing, a proper rearing in a stable home, whether the mother and myself were together or whatever the case was. That was just my personal edict. So a lot of that stuff changed, and I couldn't see myself, you know, not necessarily having somebody there, even though I'm not really at that point per se right now. I'm kind of teetering that way, but every time I teeter that way, something always manages to fall out. So I'm forever faithful, and I'm loyal to myself to a fault. I'm committed, but I'm loyal to me, and I'm always going to do what's in my best interest. I would definitely say that.
All right. So, one of the things, and most people responded, they had said yes, they would stay with their mate. I had someone on TikTok said that's a stupid question. Yo. Don't disrespect me like that. There's no stupid question. So this shows how stupid she is because the way she responded, like definitively, like that's a stupid question. Like this is an absolute. Like everybody stays with their mate when they're disabled. Now you have people like Jerry said, his wife stuck with him through 3 rounds of treatment. That's honorable. That's love.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's life. But not everybody will do that. So of course she come for me. I'm a counterpuncher. I had to tell her like shit, pretty much like shows how smart you are. Like how many couches did you have in your classroom? That couldn't have been no ordinary classroom. It had to be something special for you to answer definitively like that. Like there's no situations where people say, "I just can't. I can't do. I can't. I can't be a caregiver. It's not in me. It's not in me. I got to go to work. I like to work overtime. I like all my little benefits I get from working overtime. Now I got to make sure I rush home to take care of her. My quality life ain't the same. Then you may have bickering back and forth and frustrations. And now it seems like that person is not getting the proper care. The family is starting to notice it and like calling like is James home or Melvin? Is he home? Nah, he working again. So did you eat? Did this happen? Like how often does this happen? And it's questions being put out there. So eventually it may not work out. Or that person with the disability may be hard to live with. They're angry. They're mad. Like, why did this happen to me? And no matter what you do, it's not good enough for them. And they're used to being reliant, self reliant, doing everything on themselves. And now they have to wait on somebody. Shit don't sit in well with them. So now it's difficult to maintain and live with them because they got you balled up in a fetal position every night because you trying to do the best that you can, but nothing's good enough. So in that case, some people may step. So dumbass from YouTube, think about it. Sometimes it's not 100%. Sometimes people will not stay there. So one of the key things is communication and maturity and stuff, things like that kind of keeps everything together. But if you don't have that, then you on the, and her analogy with the boat, you're on a sinking ship sooner or later when you don't have certain things that's going to keep y'all grounded and keep you together.
Hmm.
Let me read
I
your
remember.
Tom's comment. She says
Yeah,
some
go
people
ahead.
can't handle it. That's not a stupid question. I personally wouldn't bail out, but some people can't do it. Exactly. Some people they just not cut for it. They're not the nurturing people. They don't know what nurturing and showing love and affection, and that could have something to do with their upbringing or whatever the case is. All they know is I'm gonna work, and you're gonna speak on that and say, "Damn, he's a hell of a worker, or she's a hell of a worker." And if you interrupt that flow, then you're taking everything away from them because that's what they know how to do, and they not that nurturing type. And even you have some dads like that. The mom pretty much takes care of everything. Dad's in the household, and they not lacking for anything. But you not about to get him down and have a tea party with his little daughter, or being silly or whatever. He probably down in his man cave or doing whatever and quiet, and the kids know, shit, we better not piss dad off or whatever the case is. He don't say that much, but we know to stay in line, and it's real. So it's so many variables to this. So for stupid dumbass again to think it was an absolute shows you got a lot of growing up to do in this, because there's so many different things that can um, make people go different ways.
And to that, and I think this is where we as a society has matured a little bit. We're in a kinder, gentler society where we're not as judgmental, and I think that's important that we do give people social graces who have bowed out of a situation like that because it's too difficult for them. So as opposed to staying there making themselves miserable, and Christine just alluded to that it's very hard to be a burden on others. It can be a recipe for disaster. You got two people who are now because of and let's face it, it could be something as innocent as a work mishap, a car accident, and we talked about that maybe about 2 months ago. The number of people who are injured in DWI accidents, work incidents. One of these things can happen at any time. So anybody can become a burden to somebody else. So, like I was saying, we need to be able to see an individual and say, hey, look, if you've given it your all, if you've done everything you could to maintain a stable life and you're calling it quits, we understand. We're not going to judge you. Even though you might say that publicly, privately, you hold in all kinds of harsh criticism. But if you don't um, mention those, nobody knows. I'm not saying be two faced because I'm a judgmental asshole. I will tell you that now. I judge every situation that I come across, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. But I don't necessarily make those judgments known to an individual. Because just because I judge something one way doesn't mean it actually is that way. And that holds true for anyone. So I'm not saying you can't have a judgment about an individual, but don't make somebody who probably feels bad feel even worse. And this is something I said to David a couple last week, I believe it was. I have a philosophy that I live by. If I can't help you, I am not going to hurt you. I am not going to make the cross that you carry heavier because I think you should do something else. That's your cross. Whatever you put on it, you decide to carry it. I'm not going to help you because I have my own cross to bear. And I'm trying to make it as light as possible. Matter of fact, I'm trying to get to the point where it's just paper mache. That's one of my goals in life is to make my life as easy as possible. So, um, you know, the longer we live, generally speaking, the more we accumulate. And sometimes we accumulate good things. That's why you see people walking around happy, smiling. They ain't got no cares. People say, well, that's not possible. It's possible. It's very possible that you can live to a point where every day you wake up, the sun's shining, the birds are whistling. Even when the birds ain't whistling and it's storm clouds, your life is glorious because you've done everything to set yourself up to the point where you don't have any concerns. You have no worries. And I think that's something we all should be trying to do. Um, whether it's a day at a time, an item at a time, or whatever the case is. That's like I talk about this house. I'm doing one thing at a time, even though I got a lot to do. One thing at a time.
So Christine said caregivers need a support system too. There are
Mhm.
support groups just for caregivers, and I kind of
Yep.
mentioned that there's support groups, and then sometimes family has to come through. They may have to say we need to give him or her a break. Uh, he may want to go to a baseball game, football game, or just have a day to himself. So that's why that adage is just not for kids. It takes a village. So everybody has to chip in. If everybody chips in, then that means not one person is doing everything. So, and it could be chipping in. It could just be sometimes it don't have to be physical labor. It could be like emotional or just being there um, to talk to that person that's uh, disabled, or hey, just making them laugh. Because sometimes, like Herb said, it could be just something that happened out of nowhere. Just you said a car accident. Like me and one of my coworkers was talking today, and I was like, and I had mentioned this on the promo for the show. Like sometimes we just wake up and you got different ailments that don't go away once you age. And and I tell you that the back issue and stuff like that, shit, that's a killer. That'll permit you to not do a lot if your back is all jacked up. Uh, so in that case, what you going what you gonna do when you're with someone and they used to move freely and all of a sudden now shit they don't drive no more. They got a nice ass car in the driveway. They can't do nothing with it because they only could drive for so long without being in pain. And this stuff is real. It's real. And you know what? To think about it is, you may have that person that say, you know what? I kept telling your ass if you would have ate healthy, you would have exercised. When I was going to the gym, I was doing that. You was like, nah, I ain't doing that shit. I ain't got time for that. Now look at you.
Yeah.
Now look at you. And they may say, shit, I was trying for years. I stuck it out. Now his ass got too big, legs big as hell, ankles, all of that. What is it? The little I forgot what it. When your ankles and all that stuff swell up. It's the medical term for that. But which probably could lead to the high cholesterol, the strokes, and stuff like that. And they may shit, it's nothing I can do at this point. I've tried, I tried. He refused to do anything. All he thought about was working, coming home, having his cocktails, watching sports. Never wanted to exercise, never wanted to do anything. And I'm shit looking good as hell. And I'm not about to sit around and be depressed with him. And eventually, that may be their way to exit out of it. Unfortunately, yeah, edema, yeah. So you had that, and a lot of times I see that like guys, and mines do it sometimes when I sit up and don't stretch out my legs, but it doesn't stay there that long. But when you see guys and they stuff like that, or even women, it just make me turn. I just feel instantly sad. Like, damn, like this shit is jacked up. So I always say to myself, I got to do something now. I've
Yeah.
been kind of on a hiatus. I haven't really did much, and I got to get back on track myself because I had a lot of other little stuff, work related, and other things going on. But you know, health comes first. None of this stuff matter if you don't stay on track with that. So you have to think about it. If you're that reluctant partner and somebody's trying to help you live a healthy life and you refuse to, should you be mad if they exit? Should you
Yeah.
be mad if they exit and they said they're not about to they can't do it anymore? and they don't want to sit around because they're just kind of disgusted, but somewhat sad that you let yourself go like that. And it's a lot of people that let themselves go.
Yeah. The foundation, we set for ourselves, especially when we're dealing with somebody else, is going to do one or two things. Is going to allow for you to put a lot of weight on it and it won't break, or is not going to allow for you to put any weight on it before it breaks. And I think it's vital. The foundation of anything sets the template long term. If you got bad feet, you're not going to be able to do a whole lot. It's the same thing with the building. If the building's bad, anything above it is going to crumble. We look at this from the perspective of mates. That's understandable. We'll probably spend most of our adult life in that capacity. But there is one that we tend to overlook because we don't think about it that often. I've been in a situation, I'm sure some of the other listeners have been in that situation, but what do you do when that person is an alien parent whose mate has died? This is something we had to do when our mother, before she transitioned, she stayed with me 6 months. And like Christine said, it's hell. And I, as independent as my mother was, I know she hated being here because she couldn't do all the things that she wanted to do because I wasn't going to permit it. And I had a set of rules: eat what I make, take your medicine, drink water, don't open my door. It was the complete reverse of what she was accustomed to doing. And you got a woman at that time, she was in her 70s, like, how the hell you gonna tell me what to do? I'm your mother. The hell you look like? Boy, couldn't do that. Couldn't pull rank. My house, my rules. That was the way we were raised. Boy, you better do what I tell you. So those situations, although they may be few and far between, we are that generation now that's going to put that upon our kids because most of us are not partnered. And that was the thing I talked about earlier with marriage being a dying institution. In the wedding vows, excuse me, they say in sickness and health, till death do us part. That's said, but that's rarely honored because at the first drop of resistance, the first time there's a problem that somebody don't want to deal with, whether they can or not, they say, you know what? I'm out. Sorry, I didn't sign up for this. Even though I said that, I didn't really mean it. Nah, 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 nah. I was just joking. Nah, 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 nah. And it's so easy to get out of marriages right now that at the drop of a hat, the drop of something going wrong, people are doing it because there's no repercussions. So, um, like I said prior, make sure that an individual that you plan on being with, that you guys have these discussions. What happens if I have a stroke or I have a heart attack and I become incapacitated? Are you gonna change my diaper? Are you gonna wipe my soil behind? Are you gonna help me up and downstairs? Are you gonna dress me for bed? And that was one of the things in the movie that I mentioned, that Homer was the guy's name who had the prosthesis. He brought her up to his room. He said, "Look, this is what you're gonna have to deal with. Should we marry?" Took off his prosthesis. Said, "I'm gonna need help buttoning up my shirt every day." He said, "If that bedroom door closes, I can't open it, so I need that door to stay open." He said, "I am as helpless as a baby." And you might encounter a situation like that. You might encounter somebody you've been with 15, 20 years because you met in your 30s and everything's been going great. You got your retirement set up, kids are gone, you're empty nesters now. and he had a stroke. Wasn't a massive stroke, but it's a stroke enough to impair him, so he can't use his left or right side depending on which side the stroke was on. So now you go from being an empty nester, late 50s, looking at another 2 or 3 years retirement. Then you plan on traveling the world. You got your passport, you got your itinerary, you got your travel agent on speed dial. All that's gone now. Got to use a wheelchair, maybe a walker, a cane. I was fortunate enough to see my I'm sorry, my maternal aunt provide for my maternal uncle in that way. And bless her soul, even when she came home from work, she made sure he had what he needed. And he had a physical disability. He couldn't get around well. And she cared for him like no other. So I've been blessed to see that in my life. Also, years ago when I was doing security at the casino, I saw this couple, and rarely will I say this. It was the cutest thing I ever seen. They had a massive mechanized wheelchair. He would drive and she would sit on the side, booed up. I said, yeah, that's love. That's commitment. And we don't see enough of that. Wherever he was, she was sitting right there. Slot machine right there. I was like, yeah. It restored some of my faith in humanity and in the fact that people do commit and stay committed, you know, even when things might not be the greatest. And I've said this before and I'll reiterate it. Before the great John Madden passed, they asked, oh, I'm sorry, after the great John Madden passed, they asked his wife, she said, how did you make it work? She said, there wasn't always love, but there was always commitment. And that's something I've never forgotten is sometimes people only commit to the next orgasm. They only commit to the next meal. Beyond that, they're not committed to much else.
So, and when you think about this, you have a lot of soul searching to do because we already know that nothing's guaranteed, and I always take to heart with what the great Kobe said: listen to your body, and it never fails you. Like when you have something going on that isn't right. So I guess back in his playing days, he would let them know, like, nah, you know, it's not a goal today, or I can't practice today, because he would listen to his body. Like, he was one that always try to push himself, and certain times he would say, nah, I can't do it. And, I had to come to terms with that. Like on Sundays for years, I was playing basketball, and I talked about this before, but I haven't played. Well, I stopped the year before last. I think I stopped in December. I started having, like, it was killing me. The recovery time was just too much. I enjoyed it. I was starting to come into my own. I was putting in work, hitting a few baskets, bodying up people, and getting a little touch. But going to work that Monday, sore as hell, bruised toes, uh, because one of the things they said, like, when you doing all of that, you probably should go a size up. When you're doing motions and stuff like that, when you buy your regular shoe size, you wear them, and you're just doing your regular things. But when you're playing basketball and all of the jumping, the lateral movements and all that, you need more room. So I was, wearing sneakers that I normally wear, and it's like that's why you getting the bruises, and then the plantar fasciitis, whatever,
Yeah.
feet hurting. You wake up and like, God, can't even move. And then it was just so many different things, and I said, I'm done. Then last year, they sent out the little email for us to like, oh, if y'all signing up, come on and play. Make sure you show up. We trying to, set everything, set our regular people, because it was like set people that would come there every week, and it was some of the same guys that I've been doing for like 10, 12 years. I know they probably looking for me, and they probably like, "What happened to Big Bruce?" That's what one of the dudes is called, because I like I told him, I only came here to. I'm a part of the hurt game. I only come here to make people sore for the week. I'm gonna body up with y'all. I'm gonna use this extra weight. But I didn't go last year, and it's around that time. Now it's the time I know they hooping, and I think one of these Sundays I'm just gonna pop up in there and just go in there to kind of watch. But to be honest, and I admit it, I'm afraid to get back out there
Oh,
because of the recovery time. I'm afraid I don't want to go through that. And we talked about that before. So when you have aging athletes and they have to go through training camp and they think about it, even though they may still have it, like, oh, I can play in a game, but all that other rigor, I can't do it. Same thing like with boxers and stuff. You just don't want to. It's too much. It takes a toll. So I admit I'm afraid to. I don't want to feel that. Not at this age, whatever. And it's too much. And me and my coworker, we was talking about this too, because on the last time we had a competitive game at the school, I must have did some move, and I think I like an abdominal strain. I could barely go upstairs. I was jacked up. So that's why you have to be careful with certain things that you do when you get older. And a lot of times when I go to my doctor, they always say best thing to do is just walk. Like basketball, maybe too much. Walk, swim, do something like that. And I kind of took heed to that. So yeah, y'all admit not afraid of the competition, afraid of the results of the pain. And because when you get older, your tolerance isn't as it used to be, and I can't do it no more. And I don't know. I keep saying, am I officially retired?
there's there's something to that shoe size because I just went rollerblading maybe about a couple weeks ago. Now the rollerblades that I always use, I use now, and it's like, wow, these things just fit a little bit too snug. And I'm looking at a new pair, and I'm saying, do I need to go up a size? So I might actually even do that. I might go up a size and rollerblades, but I'm gonna continue to rollerblade because I like to ice skate. I'm a winter baby. If I could,
Hold up, Herb. Hold up. I remember
yeah,
that video you had, and you said you was ice skating, but I
yeah.
ain't never see you moving. I ain't see you moving. And I was like, and you were supposed to show and prove like you was doing all that with the ice skate, because I was like, man, black people don't know how to ice skate like that.
I have a profile picture that I took of me standing on a pair of skates in Baines Park. I'm
Yeah,
doing fist on arm. I'm
standing
gonna drop.
there,
Hold up,
standing
hold up,
there.
hold up, hold up. I'm gonna drop that in the counsel's corner, and I'm also gonna dig up the photos of me taking a selfie while I'm ice skating in downtown Toronto. Matter of fact, it's at I think outside the Toronto Convention Center a couple years ago. So he calling me out, so I got to show him proof. I got like prime time said, I got receipts.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
back to being a little bit more serious. People, if you find yourself lacking um the physical ability to get out and do a whole lot of exercise, what I would tell you utmost is to get a stretching regime.
that's key.
You know, whether you do yoga or Pilates, I know a lot of women love Pilates, they love yoga. Fellas, don't sleep on either one. Um, like I said, get you a 10-minute stretching regime, whether you do it when you get up in the morning or at night before you go to bed or whatever the case is. Stretch. Because as we get older, falls tend to occur not because we're clumsy, it's because we don't have that dexterity. So you're not as quick, you're not as agile. And usually that becomes because you haven't moved around a whole lot. So, it's funny. I remember being up at the local park, Abbott, Legends Field, and I had the music playing and I'm stretching. They said, "What's the music for? Motivation?" I said, "No, the music's the music." I said, "Another 15 years is a motivation." And they didn't understand it because they all 17, 18. At that age, you didn't stretch. You just got on the court and played. I can't do that shit nowadays. Unless we want to pull a muscle, tear one. I can't afford to be lamed up like that. So stretching is always important. Even before I go rollerblading now, I stretch. Before you know, before I do anything that I consider to be kind of strenuous exercise, I stretch. Now, the only time I don't stretch is when I ride a bike. That's because I don't ride nearly as long and I cover the distances like I did. I used to ride from my house or the apartment I stayed at on Ashland Avenue out to North Tonawanda. People that aren't familiar with the area, it really doesn't matter. Essentially, it was about a 20 to 22-mile bike ride there and back. So I would ride there, uh, paved roads mostly, give myself about a 20, 25 minute break, and then ride back. Now, when I came back, it was always into a headwind, and that was brutal. But I would manage to do that. Now, I would not attempt to do something like that, mainly because I'm too old, I'm too heavy. But I also realized, like David said, the body said, no, you can't do that anymore. Shut that down. So listen to your body. If you're doing something, no matter what it is, and the body says, hey, take a break, take a break, take a break.
And
And
as far
rest
as
is
that,
recovery. Go ahead.
far as that stretching thing, I should know. I should definitely take heed to that. For a while, I was going through physical therapy. Uh, was it last year, and then probably up until May. I had started having out of nowhere like elbow, shoulder, and stuff, and neck, and it was all kind of related. And one of the things she was like, sometimes it's something simple as like the pillows you sleep on
Yeah.
or whatever the case is. And she's a young physical therapist, so she used to get a kick out of me. She used to like hearing the stories. The middle school stories, and
Uh-huh.
just when I come in, what's going on now, David? Like what's going on? What injury you got now? But I know she rolling over in her grave, knowing that I ain't really been doing no stretches. She's not dead. That's just a figure of speech. uh, and she ended up leaving the practice, that the agency she was at. So that's how we had got disconnected. But she used to like, you're stiff, like you're so stiff, like and I would tell her I always been stiff. Oh, that's just me. Then as the months went on, she was like, I could tell you making improvements. Like you used to couldn't do that before, and it was working. But of course, I guess at a certain age or whatever, I don't even want to put it on age. You have to have somebody. Sometimes it's important to have somebody pushing you. And she used to be on my case about that, but then soon as she went and left went on and got another job, I kind of fell back into the same pattern. So here I am again, more stiffer than before, older and more stiffer before. And if I would have kept, just listened, I would have probably been like, damn. So I understand the yoga aspect and all of that stuff. I can't even do it. I ain't going to try to do all that. But like she used to say, while you watching your sports, pull out your mat and just stretch while you watching the games.
Yeah.
You're sitting there not doing anything, just do it. And even something as simple as that, I didn't always do it. So sometimes people can lead us to the water, and we get there, don't even drink the shit. So some of it is on us. And I know this is all connected to the subject matter because we're saying, trying to be proactive instead of reactive. That sometimes we gotta do better with exercise and our eating habits and just being consistent with stuff because we just don't know. Like I said, you can wake up and it could be something that's crazy. Like, and I could say, for example, the other day I woke up and I'm like, what the hell? My whole hand was like swole and I was scared. And eventually, by the time I left, I don't know if I slept the wrong way or something, but I was getting real worried, and I was like, man, like this, like, do I got to go to patient first? Am I gonna go to work, then go to see the nurse at the school, and end up leaving? But then everything ended up getting back to normal, but still, that still ain't a good sign. Something I probably need to check out. So it's just little things like that that you notice that you just can't leave at this age. You can't leave like, oh, I'm better because you don't know when the next time it might be more severe and more intense. So it is what it is, people. And we like to have these conversations because it's real, and everybody think the Counselors Corner, of course, is the worst group in history, but but it's real conversation, and it's here to have these uncomfortable conversations and to admit some things, that shortcomings that you have.
Yeah.
Like I just told you, shit, I'm scared to get back on the court again. Not to play, but the after effects. I don't want to feel that pain no more. I like being able to get up and go to work and uh, be normal instead of struggling with life. So I chose not to do that anymore. And it's so crazy that I don't even, at the school with the kids, I don't even pick up a basketball anymore. They could be shooting around and all that stuff. Before I would like, okay, let me put this down, let me get out here, let me shoot. I just the ball could just go sailing by me. I just look at it and say,
See,
say
I'm
I'm not,
grabbing. I'm reaching for
say
the
I'm not
ball.
gonna even do it. Not gonna do it. I,
But
I
I
should
would,
have learned. I should have learned in this one last day. Double
yeah,
past the mic. I should have learned that a long time ago. I told this story before when we was. It was one of those days, and I still felt like I had it. It was like a little incentive for the kids. They went outside, was playing basketball, and I was monitoring the basketball course. I'm minding my business, letting them pick up teams, and they're like, "Yo, we short. We short. Mr. Glover, come and play." Damn, I don't really feel like playing with y'all. So I didn't really do. I wasn't even running full court, running back and forth. I was getting rebounds and kicking it out. And I shot a couple times, but at the end result, our team ended up losing. So
they
they was,
play me.
yeah, they was talking back and forth. And then one of the kids like, man, shut the hell up, man. How the hell y'all gonna let us beat us? You had a grown ass man on y'all team. That was so funny to me because he acted like I was just trying to, like I was really trying to win.
Yeah.
Uh, but I wasn't even really doing much. He was like, you had a grown ass man on the team and y'all took an L. So I try to stay away from those situations because before they were like, "Come on, Mr. Glover," and I'll be like, "Okay, let me get out here." Nope, I just let the ball go by. uh,
I will give people a couple tidbits, especially if you have insurance through your work or through some other provider. Find a gym that has preferably a sauna. If you can't find one that has a sauna, find one that has a jacuzzi. Sit in it in the jacuzzi. Let's discuss the jacuzzi first. Sit in the jacuzzi for about 10, 15 minutes. Get warm and then stretch. A lot of people warm up for physical activities wrong. They stretch first, which is the wrong thing to do. You want to warm up first. So take a couple laps, then stretch, because your ligaments are at temperature to where stretching is easier, and it prevents them from actually, for lack of a better term, breaking, if you will. If you can find a place with a sauna, stretch in the sauna. Make sure you get warm. Make sure the ligaments and tendons are warm, and stretch in there. Do that 2 or 3 times a week, preferably 5 if you can. If you can't do those, do 3. You can, and the same thing will work with your shower at home. If you can close off your bathroom and you can get it warm enough to where the temperature increases to the point where you're sweating, stretch in there as well. Also, get a nutritionist, somebody that can tell you what you're deficient in, so you can balance out your diet. So that helps you too, because as we become older, we kind of get set in what we eat and what we don't eat. And if you're on the go and you're using microwave food or whatever the case is, I can just about guarantee you that you're deficient in something. I know I am. Even though I try and eat a well balanced diet, I don't eat fruits as much as I used to. So I know some minerals I'm deficient in, some vitamins I'm probably deficient in as well. So those two things I would encourage anyone listening to this to go seek out. I'm gonna try and find a nutritionist through my healthcare provider, and I'm going to take the test and see what I'm deficient in, and start to eat accordingly. One of the things,
Her,
yeah.
you might need a lady to come pull up and cook for you.
But you know what the thing about it is, it's not my cooking though. It's like, case in point, I don't eat beef. So beef has a lot of things in it that are actually good, but I just don't eat it. And if I can't get it from another source, then I'm gonna have to resort to pill form. Now, pill form for me is a last resort. I don't like taking medicine unless I absolutely have to. But like I don't consume dairy products as much as I used to, even though iron is plentiful in green leafy vegetables. I don't always eat vegetables every time I prepare something for work. So if I'm calling for something to work, from a local place, I'm just trying to get what tastes good. So for me, it might be a turkey sandwich with some lettuce, tomato, onions, or it might be a large pizza with some grilled chicken and pineapple. I'm just trying to eat at that particular point. So excuse me. So those two things I would recommend that people do, especially at our age. Like I said, when we get to a certain point, we like to eat what we like to eat. Damn, a balanced diet. The only thing I want balance is myself when I get up and walk. Is my gait okay? All right, then I'm cool.
Yeah, and that gait is important. It needs to be steady, and like I always said, every time, shit, when I go back home between Niagara Falls and Buffalo, and you see folks, I'm like, damn, they on a walker now,
Yeah.
or they got a cane, or whatever the case is, and and you think to yourself, I'm all right for now. I'm all right now. I'm still straight, whatever. Although one of my students said the other day, she was like, Mr. Glover, are you a sundowner? I'm like, what? uh, Something she seen on TikTok, and
Okay.
but I didn't know she was talking. I didn't know she was talking about like I had an onslaught of like dementia or something like that. Cause she's like, look at these videos. Like these people so mean and they cussing their family out because she's like, oh, you clearly have gotten mean over the years because I had showed her this old picture that I had when it used to be like 14, 15 kids in my office. She's like, they all over the countertop. They all over the place. When 3 or 4 of us in here now, y'all say, y'all doing too much. You doing too much. Get out. Y'all got to go. Go to class. And she's like, but they was all chilling. She's like, so I think you going through the sundown. Yeah. She said, because you just mean. I was like, wow. I said, no, they didn't do TikTok videos and had this music. This y'all like to come here and do all these damn videos and then get me in trouble. doing a video in my office, and one of the kids sticking their middle finger up, and the kid, and she was supposed to be in class, and the kid
Oh,
like, yeah, well, Kai, I said her name, but oh well. She's at Mr. Glover's office, whatever, because she just went live on the video and stuck up her middle finger. So
yeah, they trying to get
a
you jammed up.
couple minutes later, I get the email from the teacher. Oh, did you permit this? Like, listen, I don't know what they were. I didn't know if they was going live or whatever. They just come in, they be dancing and all that. I look at it as being therapeutic.
Yeah,
Let them get their little energy off. Then I kick them out and go to class. But it's crazy. But and I'm tying this into like the age thing that she was trying to say. Like, oh, you getting angry and mean with your age. So yeah, hey, for some people that's real. And then again, like we say, that's why some people decide to leave and say, I don't want that. Hey, we're both in our 50s. You're not going to sit here and yell at me and beat me down every day. And I'm trying on top of working, picking up the slack because you got a permanent, disability check coming in and you can't make as much as you used to make. And I'm trying to make sure we still maintain a certain lifestyle, but your ass going off on me every few seconds. I can't do it. I gotta have my mental sanity. So again, dumbass from YouTube, not YouTube, but TikTok. People do leave. People do leave situations. And like Herb mentioned earlier, I know the thing, to death do us part. It's not always the case. Because you could stay in a situation and that person could drive you to death
yep,
and you perfectly healthy and perfectly fine, but you stressed out, and stress is uh number one killer toward everything. No matter what you got, you add stress to it, it's gonna multiply.
yeah. I refuse. There's one thing, and above anything else, that I refuse to do in life, and that's argue. I don't care who you are. I don't care what the situation is. We can have a discussion, but that arguing, I am not doing it. I am not for it. Um, it is a no.
Yes. Throwing stats like damn depressing. The average black marriage lasts 5 years.
Well, you know what the funny thing about that, and BGS, I gotta holler at you about something. But anyway, he had did a video about black men, and I regroomed, for certain things. And I'm sitting there listening to it. And I'm just like, you know what, man? It's going when the reckoning comes and it's already upon us, it's gonna be hell for the sisters. And what I mean by that is this: who are they? And this kind of falls in line with the whole thing. And so I'm gonna lay it out for you. Who are they going to blame when they no longer have black men as the scapegoat? What are they going to do when they have to turn to each other in their golden years to take care of each other and they don't get along with each other? Because black men, by and large, now, especially Gen Zs and younger, they are leaving in droves. So while the average black marriage lasts less than 5 years, there's going to be virtually no black marriages coming behind that. So that's going to result in two things: a lot more out of wedlock children and a lot less black women having children. And the children that they do decide to have are more than likely going to be of mixed ethnicity. But who are you going to get to rear them? Because black men now aren't playing stepdad. You think the brothers that are younger than us I gonna do that? No. So now that you don't have a husband, you've alienated your child, and you don't have any good friends. Who's gonna take care of you if you happen to have a stroke, a heart attack, or you just gotten old and crotchety to the point where you need a walker and you can't get around? Old folks home. I assure you, that's no place you want to spend your golden years. I'm just putting
old,
it out this.
old folks home.
I, yeah. Yeah, the golden door phenomenon, the Facebook user says. So I'm just putting it out to sisters. You better find one and get right with them because it's coming. Like Kevin Samuels used to say, winter is coming, and the storm clouds have already started to brew on the horizon. And when they blow, that nor'easter, it's gonna be real cold, real cold.
Yeah. So there's so many there's so many ways you could take this conversation, and we try to kind of touch up on a little bit of I said the Golden Girls phenomenon, and we try to give it a different twist and different angles for you to think about. Got Black Ernie. What's up, Black? Could you hear us today? Could you hear us? What you said? What statistics are you guys reading from that says black man is only last 5 years, or are you guys just saying that? Because I beg to differ. I know a lot of black marriages that last way longer than 5 years. See, you only dealing with a pocket. Now that ain't even my beef. BGS, he's a research guru on this stuff, so that ain't nothing I looked up. But you dealing with a small sample size when you say and you got to think about the broader range of situations.
Not only that, you're referencing marriages that are people that are significantly older than you. What we're talking about, and when BGS mentions it, I'm gonna clarify that we're talking about marriages that are occurring now, not marriages that have happened with people who are boomers. Yeah, so yeah. So we're not blowing smoke. All you have to do is check the divorce rates of marriages that have happened after like the year 2000. They are
And
marriages are not lasting.
then he said the average American marriage, so that includes everybody, lasts 8 years.
Yeah. That's why we said at the top of the show, marriage is a dying institution. It really is. We don't try to be the little boy who cried wolf. We just give you some information that, for lack of a better term, is esoteric to a lot of people because a lot of people just simply put, they don't pay attention to this stuff. And it wasn't until the manosphere and more nuance, the black manosphere came along and started putting this information out through various sources that people are starting to say, okay, wait a minute. Is this really a problem? Like, is paternity fraud a problem? That's why the state of Tennessee is now moving towards mandatory DNA. I can't remember the other state. I think it was Texas is starting to roll back child support laws. People, this stuff is real. So when we tell you this stuff, you have to go look up the marriage rates. E, you might have to check different sources because some sources will give you um marriage rates of America, and then some will give you marriage rates on black people, like blackdemographics.com. Blackdemographics.com gives you just about all the information you need about black people. Like they say, it's research for black people by black people. And honestly, that's where the census gets some of it. The U.S. government census gets some of its information from. So when we tell y'all this stuff, man, we try and make you guys aware, so you're ahead of where your peers are. So when things come to pass, you're not caught off guard by them. Yeah, man, no doubt, man. But that's why that's credit to Dave, man. That's why we do these shows. That's why we talk about these issues, man. Because a lot of people, simply put, man, they walking around with their head in the sky like this pie, and don't realize that our way of life changes daily. But when we look at, let me put it like this: when we were kids, we ran and played all day to the point where they had to call us to come in the house. Today, these kids don't do that. They don't drink from a water hose. They don't play hide and seek, crazy tackle, baseball, basketball in the park, pickup games. These kids have to be made to go outside. They have to be made to exercise. They have to be made to do this. They have to be made to do that. So the generations have essentially flipped to where they are a lot less active than what we were. Why do you think the collective issue with black people's health, particularly our weight, is such a key factor now? Spielman, I believe it was Spielman, got rid of their varsity programs and started focusing on the incoming freshmen and their weight. I believe Spielman is the one for women. And focusing on the incoming freshmen because they were overweight. I have never heard of another college or university doing such a thing. Now, granted, Morehouse is specifically for women, so it makes sense for them to do it.
Yeah, I think Morehouse is for the men, and then Spillman is for the
Okay, I'm sorry.
ladies.
If I get them inverted, please forgive me, people. But that's because they understand that as women, this is live, as women age, it's tougher for them to lose weight. Now, that doesn't mean it's not tougher for men, but men have an easier time because the more muscle mass we tend to have burns calories a little bit faster. So when we tell y'all this stuff, we don't do it to scare you. We do it so you understand that, okay, you know what? I've been slacking for the last 3 months. But you know what? Tomorrow, I'm going to start putting these changes into effect. Then 2 months from now, I'm going to see the changes that I start making. Even though it might be incremental, I'm going to see that because every journey starts with that first step. Nobody's born a professional athlete. Nobody's born to be the best. They train. They train. They train. They put in the work every day.
So that reminds when you was talking about how kids used to play and do this and that. Shout out to Dr. Anwar Dunbar and Carlos Bradbury on their broadcast. I think it was last week, and
Oh, understood.
Carlos had mentioned that the difference in the players of today. They all have their personal trainers. They're improving their skills and all that. But it kind of don't equate to game situations where we used to play 5-on-5. We used to run all day. We just had give us a full court. We would play
Yeah.
all day long. Game situations, and I remember was talking to one of my friends, and she was like, she wanted her son to go out for JV basketball, and I said, has he ever played basketball before? Like the teacher, like, no, he usually shoots around in the yard. Don't do it. Basketball is not that type of game. He would be embarrassed, whatever. These kids, the skill level is at a different level now. If he's bigger than most for his age, and he can rebound or something, they'll work with him, or he's gonna hustle. But if you just going out there and you don't know the basic fundamentals, that ain't. You better start off with rec ball. There's nothing that you just don't walk on and try out for JV basketball. So it's a difference. Like I said, we used to have them pickup games playing with grown ass men
Yeah.
and getting work and doing that. These kids now they don't do that. So it kind of leads to other things like and like hers that we played all day long. We only came in to get some water, get something to drink, and we was back at it.
Yeah.
Out and about, riding our bikes all
Yeah.
over places we ain't have no business being, and that's what we did, and that's why, for the longest, we would always stay fit. Now you see some of these kids, you're like, damn, ain't that a little cheeseburger, a donut maker, already at that age? We was all over the place, so it was never go. I barely ever seen anybody like that. We was all like skinny, like thin and in shape, but now these kids cut different now.
Yeah. I I mean, and the thing about it is those habits you develop, especially in high school, usually you will carry through life. It's like they tell you, muscle memory is just that. So if you take a person who's, I'll use track because that's what I did. You take a person who's ran track, it's not going to take that long for those muscles to react and get back to what they used to do because it's muscle memory. Same thing with a pitcher. You take a pitcher or a football player who's played the position of quarterback. It's like riding a bike. They said you never forget. Now you might struggle because your balance is off. You're not as strong, but if you ride a bike, if you rode a bike as a kid, I put you on the bike as an adult. You ain't rode in 10, 15 years. I'll give you about a week. You be like, man, look, it's like I ain't never got off of this damn thing because I ride a bike consistently. The bike I had, I purchased in 1993. Do the math. I still ride that sucker all over Niagara Falls, and I get from point A to point B. Tires is bald as hell, but that sucker still moves when I push them pedals.
And and that reminds me of the video I seen. I don't know if it was TikTok, Instagram, where they had TB12, Tom Brady shooting jump shots,
Yeah,
and he was
yeah,
canning them, and I was like, it don't shock me. Most quarterbacks do have jump shots or whatever because they got aim. I don't know too many quarterbacks that can't shoot a basketball, and a lot of them would play both sports or whatever. And when you identify, like when and that's one of the things that Dr. Anwar and Carlos talked about. When we played for Lacelle, we had an elaborate game plan with Coach Monty. He would have all those facts. So that he's the star quarterback. Oh, this person is the offensive tackle. They play football, so they physical. So you would know all these attributes, and most of the time, the shooters they were pitchers and quarterbacks and stuff like that. So all this stuff, and that's why they say you should play cross sports.
yeah.
But I think now it became more of a money making industry that these kids' bodies need to rest, and it's taking a toll. And I think that's why you have a lot of these injuries and stuff going on. Okay, what is he saying? Oh, you need to come on the panel, Black.
I'll read it. He says, you guys are leaving out a major part when you're talking about the kids in our time. First of all, the times are different. That is correct. They are. We didn't have social media, Facebook, and all this stuff. That's true. When we were younger, we took a road trip with our parents. We had to actually read that big ass map to get to where we wanted to go. You are absolutely correct, and I'll address that in a moment. Nowadays, you can just Google it. The moral of the story is times are different and things have changed. And with that change, nothing will be the same. That's where you're wrong. And I'm going to tell you, as a person who has done a mentoring program, you take those tools away from the kid and you make that kid sit down and read a map. You don't allow them to become lazy and depend on the technology. This is where parenting has failed. And then we wonder why these. Matter of fact, I'll tell you a story. We came back from an AAU game in AAU tournament in Pittsburgh. We had a group of kids between the ages of 10 and 14. We were dropping the kids off individually. We asked the kids their address. They didn't know it. They can only identify where they live that by sight. That's a parental problem. How do you not know your address as a older kid? How can you only identify where you live by sight? That means if something happens and you on the other side of town, you got to get home and you got to catch a cab. You can't give the cab driver your address. That's a parental failure. And that happens when parents become lazy and put their kids in front of a TV or they give them an iPad and they don't make them think critically. I will stand by that. I will die to my goddamn last day. They say, parents, you got to make your kids smart. Kids are born with a certain level to become intelligent, but they are not going to be smart until a parent makes them. We all had to go through what to do in an emergency. We all had to be schooled in what to do this and what to do here and what to do this. Parents have to make their kids adjust. And the only way you can do that is by taking away that goddamn phone. Make them go outside. Make them play. It is absolutely absurd that we have 15, 16, 17-year-old kids who can't read a map. How do you think you're going to learn to use a bus system in a major city? If you go to New York City, how you going to get around? You going that goddamn phone ain't going to tell you what bus to take to get to Yankee Stadium from Manhattan. And yes, I've done that. You go to Toronto, that bus ain't gonna tell you. It's not gonna tell you what. Even though there's only two train lines in Toronto, one that goes north and west, and the other that goes north and I'm sorry, east and west, and one that goes north and south. The rest are fed by buses and above ground trains. That's something that parents need to make sure that their kids understand, provided that the parent understands. Who's most of these parents can't read a road map them damn selves. It's sad. I don't. Let me get off my soapbox.
Well, one of the things, and we can, and I know, we talked about in great length about the original conversation about the would you stay with your mate and stuff. So, we veer off sometime. One of the things is I have a lot of conversation with kids on a regular basis. And, they talk about, and these are middle school kids, and they talk about, oh, this their boyfriend, this their girlfriend. And I say, what's their last name? I don't know. What? What? So you don't know their last name? Nah, who? And they get at it. Who know all that, Mr. Glover? Are you freaking kidding me? So if y'all go out somewhere, and other than boyfriend, girlfriend, they don't know their friend's last name. I said, so you go, in this day and age, you go to the bath, they say, well, I'm going to the bathroom, or you go to the movies and I'm going to get some popcorn, and you with this person and they disappear.
Yeah.
You don't even know their name. I said, y'all got to have better in-depth conversations to know this stuff, whatever, because you can end up missing quickly in this day and age because of, as Ernie say, social media and stuff like that you have old ass lurkers that's sitting around getting a pause for where the kids gonna be at, what they doing, who is there a latchkey kid, is there a car in the driveway, and I always keep telling y'all, keep your damn kids off of social media. But nah, y'all don't want to hear that because it's cute. It's cute to get the likes and all that stuff. You got some real live sickos. They all over this shit. They all over it. And it's crazy that we got to live during these times, but that's the downfall sometimes of social media and kids not getting enough information from who they're with. Like a lot of times they come to me like, oh, I'm getting bullied or whatever the case, this person. Okay, who's the kid? I don't know. So you sat in class, you never heard the teacher call their name. You have no idea who it is. What do you want me to do with it? Now I got ways to go through it and figure out, look at the class list and all that. But A lot of times, I'm trying to teach them when you get older, if you dealing with the police or a lawyer and all this stuff, they need that information right then and there. You gotta have that. You gotta be on point with this stuff. Now I gotta waste this time to going through this, and I could have simply, if you had paid attention,
Right.
and they don't know, and that's why you have to tell them. You got to pay attention to your surroundings.
Yeah.
Then I can just nip it in the bud right then and there. But so these conversations are real. They need to be had because it's a lot. It's a lot going on. It's a lot going on out in this world. It's even with adults, children, and all that stuff that we have to be consciously aware of. We're in a different time. This technology is a beast.
Just so people understand where I come from. I come from an aspect of a person being self-sufficient. So case in point, let me tell this to explain better. I work in a hotel, so we take vehicle information from guests. We get guests who cannot tell you the color, the make, and the model of the car they have spent 6 hours in. Think about that for a moment. You have driven 400 miles and you do not know what the car you've ridden in looks like. You can't describe it. You don't know the color. You don't know what kind it is. You don't know nothing about the car other than it moves. So if you get into an accident or your car is stolen, how do you fill out a police report? What do you tell them? This is why I rail like this. This is just basic, everyday things that 10-year-olds should know. You should know where you live. If you don't know your neighbors, I can understand that because we have a lot of transient people. My neighbors are gone now. My neighbor's house, we won't say his name, is empty now. I believe the gentleman is going to change it to an Airbnb. Same thing with the house on my other side. But when I got on the block, the first thing I did was make sure I knew who my neighbors were. Why? Because they are the closest people to me. See, we don't do that nowadays. We move into a new neighborhood, and it's like, okay, I'm here, fuck everybody else. And I hate to use that term, but to hell with everybody else. And how does your neighborhood become a more inclusive place? By you making it more inclusive, by you including yourself in their life. You live next door to them. I know my neighbors 2 houses over, 2 houses over. I don't speak to them often, but I know them. I usually several my neighbors' walkway with several this one because I'm able-bodied enough to do it. And because I understand that kids walk up and down these streets, and in the wintertime, because of the way I plow our streets, it's dangerous. And I get the exercise. But we have to stop burying our heads in the sand when it comes to certain things about technology, its benefits, and also its hindrances. Because the more that technology comes out, the more the people depend on it, the less they use this. Most people can't tell you 4 or 5 phone numbers. Why? Boop, 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 boop. What's the number? I don't know. If you lose your phone number, then how do you call it? Some people don't even know their own phone number, let alone the phone numbers of other people. So how do you contact somebody if you lose your phone? You go to a concert, you go to a restaurant, you misplace your phone. How do you call somebody? What do you do if you're somewhere, you lose your phone, but you need to meet up with somebody? We did this at Caravana all the time. And this was before cell phones. We was like, hey, look, This is the rally point. No matter if we get lost, we get separated, we know we're going to meet right here, Dundas Square, or down at the where the parade route, 6 o'clock. Your ass better be here or you go get left and you have to find your way back to the hotel. Guess what? 6 o'clock, we were all there. We didn't have to look for anybody. Everybody was right there. These are the simple things that I'm talking about. That these kids are not taught because they're allowed to be kids. They're allowed to not develop. I don't want to say the other word, but they're not allowed to develop. They're allowed to stay in that regressive kid mode until they're forced to get off the pot because they use it. So I blame the parents. But when a kid says, like David said about the example, "Oh, why do I got to do all that? I don't make them fight through the frustration because what they learn can ultimately save their goddamn life. You put these, matter of fact, this is when I had the mentoring program. This is one of the things that I was going to um, do was I had a program that I was going to institute called a Path to Global Citizenship. This is only going to be for a handful of kids. We're going to make sure they have their passports, take them to Toronto, get them acclimated with a big city. Toronto, for all intents and purposes, is the New York City of Canada. We're talking a population of well over 1 million people, skyscrapers, functional railway system or subway system, Major League um, Baseball, NBA, they have CFL, have everything that a big city has. And we were going to teach these kids, hey, look, you're in a place where when it says do not walk across the street, don't take your ass across the street. Why? Because you can get hit. And what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, now it becomes a reality, except it becomes a reality for somebody that's 14 years old that didn't pay attention to what they were taught. Or they may not have been taught. They may not have been to a big city. See, in Niagara Falls, if it says do not walk, you can walk across the street. Ain't no traffic coming. You ain't got to worry about getting hit. In Toronto, you got to worry about getting hit because they make right on reds routinely against the traffic light. And you can get ran over in a hurry. I haven't, but I've seen people come goddamn close, and that shit's scary. And I'm a full grown adult, knowing when to cross the street. And I'm just like, man, it's treacherous out here. So that's why I rail so vociferously um, against kids and technology. I've always said that if I had a kid, my kid wouldn't get a cell phone until they got to be about 14, 15. And people thought I was crazy. I said, no, because they need to learn. They need to learn to function without one. A cell phone is just like a tool. It should be there to assist you, not there to lead you.
And the crazy thing, and I don't want to depress y'all and all that stuff. And it's true, you have to make kids read something. I guess you have to find something they're passionate about.
Mhm.
The reality is, we have a lot of black boys and um, black girls. We're going to say black boys. We always focus on black boys because we men. That some of them, maybe in the 6th grade, 7th grade, and they reading at a kindergarten level.
Mhm.
And you wonder like, how did they make it this far? Um, how did they get past on? This is this is what we're dealing with. And we had Tony, um, Tony Ghetto Boy Riley on here month and a half, couple months ago, and he was talking about the plight in Niagara Falls and some of the issues that was going on, and it's real. And I always like to tell this one story. And sometimes we, as adults, move too fast, and we get caught up in our own emotions. I remember this was years ago when I first started working at the middle school level. Had a young lady come in. She would come in hot, always something, always about to fight somebody, bust down my door. The door could be half cracked, she busting in there. And I'm like, yo, my door like shut. What are you doing? Mr. Glover, you better get this person. You better get this person. I'm gonna pluck them. I'm gonna do this and that. I'm gonna, always, like every day I could count on her coming through doing something like that. And I was like, you know what? Fill out an incident report. We used to call it green sheets. Fill out this green sheet. And I don't know if I told this recently, but uh, if I did, listen, because you probably somebody new ain't heard it before. Uh, she would she would come back like clockwork till finally the one day she was like, you know why I don't never fill out them sheets? Because she would always be like, never mind, and go back to class. And I'm like, okay, fine, you're going back to class. And she was like, finally one day, she like, you know why I don't fill out these green sheets and anything? And usually I tell the story, I would get teary eyed because it saddens me. She's like, because I don't really know how to read. I don't know how to write. And I'm like, man, that's a travesty. And I was like, I apologized to her several. Like, I'm so sorry, sweetie. I'm so sorry because I was leaning on her like, no, don't come in here with this shit every day unless you want to write it and tell me what's going on, the incident. Well, she couldn't. She didn't know how, and that's why she was acting up in class to get out because the heat was getting on her, and they was asking her, "Could you read this line? Could you read this? The next sentence?" Couldn't do it. So a lot of times she probably was faking these altercations just to get out. And then when I told her, "Oh, you need to write this," she's like, "Shit, I got to get out of here." So she was always on the run.
Yeah.
And then eventually, probably just roaming the halls, going to the bathroom, trying to avoid those situations. So this is the stuff we deal with. Yeah, I don't think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand, and that's why it's important that households dictate all of this, dictate communities and all of this stuff. What goes on in your household? If your household fucked up,
The community.
and if you got 20 houses on the neighborhood in the neighborhood, and the majority of them is fucked up, that means that neighborhood is jacked up, and you'll start seeing the crime, the stealing, and disrespect of disrespect of other people's property, and all of that stuff take place. And again, it all ties back, adds to stress for people. It's just stress, especially when you get older and you're like, man, this street used to be like this when I grew. I used to be able to can walk around and do this. I can leave my door open and all that. Can't do that shit no more. Can't do it no more. And so again, we bounce around with a lot of stuff, but we like to go for the juggler and hit you with places that make you think like, man, either you fortunate to say, man, I'm glad I do this, or I've taught my child this or that. Because other than that, this is what we're that's what this is what we're faced with.
Yeah.
So Black got to say, if a kid has a second grade reading level in the eighth grade, I blame the teachers at all the schools she went to, because how did that person pass all those years? The teachers were just pushing them through. And also, you definitely must blame the parents for not taking time out to help um, your child read and write.
Well, that's a double-edged sword, Ernie, and we have to look at legislation. When Clinton signed No Child Left Back, it mandated that essentially, no matter what these kids' grades are, they're to be pushed ahead. I,
Was
there's
that
a case.
Bush?
No, that was Clinton. I think Clinton
Uh,
signed that. I could be incorrect though, but to further accentuate that, um, there was a child or student, I should say, in Baltimore who was supposed to be graduating with a GPA of less than one. Now, some people were saying that the school district failed that child. I'll say this as an individual who dropped out of high school, who went back. The school district is not responsible for your child graduating. They will tell you this. They will tell you it's up to the student and the parent. Now, in my situation, my mother wasn't active in that aspect of my education. It was solely on me. I had to double up my senior year in English to ensure I graduated because I was 20. So there was no more time left for me to be in high school. But I did it. This is how I know. So, people can blame the district all they want to. Ultimately, the success or failure of a child lies with that student and that parent. The school district, the teachers, the administration, they're just tools. You build, or a student builds, their academic success by using those tools. So if a student doesn't use those tools, then blaming the tools amounts to trying to find a scapegoat. This is why parents need to make their kids go to bed at a respectable hour, so they're well rested, get to school.
Yeah.
They're not unruly, they're not falling asleep, they're prepared to learn. But that doesn't happen often. So do you blame the teachers for the kid going to sleep at midnight, 1 o'clock? I'll give you another anecdotal story. When we went out of town for our AAU basketball games, any of the kids that bunked with me, 9 o'clock, your cell phones were off and in the dresser drawer. I didn't care if you didn't go to sleep. I didn't care if you lay there and twiddled your fingers, but you were not going to be on that goddamn cell phone. You were going to be rested and ready for the games. We played the next day. That was standard behavior in Coach Lewis's room, and they knew that. That's why some of the kids did. Well, oh man, he mean. He won't let us be on the phone because you don't need to be. I'm your de facto parent while we out of town. And yes, I took people's kids out of town. Thank you very much. They all returned safe, enjoyed, and they learn. But parents have to set the pace. If a parent doesn't set the pace, then how do you expect the school, anybody else in the community to do that? It's not going to happen. Parents must take an active role in their child's education.
Well, see, and the crazy thing about that is I just did presentations with sixth graders, and it was one of the questions. I was trying to gauge, and I talked about this last week, was gauging their mood and stuff like that. And a lot of them was like, I'm tired. Use the color chart. I feel gray. Why you feel gray? I don't want to be here. I'm tired. I'm bored. And then I said, a lot of them said they was tired. So I said, so what time y'all go to bed? What time do y'all go to bed? And there's like 11, 12, 1, 2, and I'm like, I don't know. Some of them could be making up, but some of it, I believe it. And I was like, damn. I said, so do y'all understand why y'all come in here? You irritable towards other students. You irritable towards teachers, administration, because you don't get enough sleep. I said, you know what time y'all should go to bed as sixth graders? And they're like, what time? I was like 9. Like, man, you tripping, Mr. Glover. 9 o'clock. If I go to bed at 9, I'm going to wake up at 3. Then I'm going to be up the whole time or whatever. I was like, well, you younger. Y'all can sleep longer or whatever the case is. Y'all need that sleep. Because some of the kids, like, they go to bed at 9 and there's like, and when you ask them how they feel, they like, I feel energetic. I feel alive. I'm happy. In their whole mood, you can see it. Yeah. then you had the other ones. So I think a lot of that's why they always was having talks about changing the times of when they wanted to push back instead of, elementary kids going into school later, they wanted to push high school kids time back later because they up on the phones, they up all night, so they didn't want them to come in as early. I'm like, wow. And they figured elementary kids, a lot of that is controlled by parents that they go to bed early so they could start school earlier than high school kids that kind of mosey in and the attendance rate drop, if impacts grades and stuff. So they was dibbing and dabbling and talking about that for a while. That was like a hot button subject, whatever. That high school kids come in, reverse the order, and high school kids come in later and go to school from like 9 to 4 or something like that. I was like, man, they cave into anything. They didn't do it, but that talk was out there.
There's also been talk of I think augmenting the school year from what was it, 5 to 6 days. They're having instructions on Saturday because that's what some European countries do. I think specifically, I think Japan or China, I believe was that had the kids go to school year round, so there isn't an academic drop off in the summer months because it said that these kids they lose some of the information that they had the prior year because well, they're not doing anything. I don't I don't know about the evidence that backs that, so I can't really speak to that um, in any scientific or meaningful way. But I think it's something that they're going to look into. And this is a topic we'll probably get to some other time. Is the state of public education? What is that going to look like in about 5 to 10 years? Are we still going to have schools as we knew them or as we know them, or will the private sector take over? When I say the private sector, I'm not necessarily speaking of people who are organized in communal schooling. What I mean by private sector, I mean is our parents going to actually start homeschooling their kids and their friends' kids in accordance with state academic requirements. Because I think that's where we headed. I know at least one individual who's homeschooled their kids and they're doing well. So the only thing you really need to do when you homeschool is to make sure that your children are commensurate with the state requirements for graduation. So
But with that too, also they lose out that social aspect.
yeah, but
So those the kids that they get homeschooled and they go off to college and they can't adapt, they can't handle certain situations, and they um shit, who knows? And I don't want to throw out no particular situations and label them, but sometimes they lack that social component, and which is big, which is a great part of. And I always tell kids, what's better? Someone having a 4.0, never talks to anybody, not a part of a club or an organization, but then you have somebody with a 3.0, they captain of this team on the debate team. Uh, who's the more well-rounded person when it comes to someone making a decision like, oh, we want this kid or that one? And so most of them get it that you got to be involved. You got to be a team player. You got to be able to work the system. So that person who with the lower GPA but knows how to navigate and utilize resources is probably going to be better than that person with a 4.0 who don't say nothing to nobody, come to school, get his grades, but and I guess it depends on what field they're going into as well.
yeah, yeah. Let me go back and start to read Anita's statements. She said, Oh, if that's the case, do they have grades that either pass the student or hold them back in the same grade? From what I understand, they do have pass fail grades, but those do not determine whether that student passes or fails that grade. She said they also need to go to summer school. The problem with summer school is this: you can't possibly learn in 2.5 months what you were supposed to learn in 40. Do the math. It's just not possible. But they do anyway. And part of that reason is so they can get them to the next grade and be in alignment with the No Child Left Behind policy. Let me get to the parents these days don't have the tools to manage all of these things because children in this time and age are unruly no matter what age. Like I said, parents need to be parents. A child is only unruly because the parent allows that child to be unruly. You under my roof, you follow my rules. And a lot of that has to do with the family dynamics. I agree. Anxiety and stress at home. I've always said a child's education consists of three things or three environments: home, school, and community. If any of those is compromised, that student is at an increased risk of failure. She follows that up with saying, I do mostly blame the school system because they shouldn't pass the student on to the next level if they're insufficient in that grade. Legislation forces their hand. In my opinion, kids these days, especially in poverty level, have difficulty sleeping because of stress and anxiety. I always had a strict bedtime until I graduated high school. I had to beg for a bedtime of 9:30 p.m. and 10 in 10th, 11th, and 12th grades. There's a particular reason why you were regimented to that. Is because it was proven successful. Your parents weren't doing it to be an asshole. They weren't doing it to be mean. They know what worked because it had been proven generation after generation. And this is when people say, why reinvent the wheel? This is exactly what they mean. Why are we trying to fix something that's not broken? Stick with what works. Make sense?
Well, for me, I always keep saying they need to change this whole curriculum around, and they need to build it on the times that we're in. Now, me and one of my assistant principals, we was talking about it the other day. It's like these kids need to be active. We can't expect to have all this teacher talk, teachers that's in front of kids talking, and their attention span. She's like, hey, even us in meetings, after a while, I'm gonna tune you out, and I'm gonna pull out my cell phone or whatever case, go on ESPN.com or see what's going on with boxing for the weekend, as any matches, because we have to change up things. But sometimes the powers that be want to keep it the same way, and that may be because of federal funds and finances and teaching to test and get them, trying to get them prepared because you're getting those federal dollars to take these tests. But back in our days, we were taught, we worked at our own pace, and the teachers are like, if they don't get it, we gonna keep working till they get it.
Yeah.
Now teachers only have a certain amount of time to cover what they need to cover, and they got to get through it. So that may leave a lot of kids like, I don't know what the hell going on. And of course, if they don't know what the hell going on, usually they into other shit on social media and doing whatever in class. And you'll see a lot of kids like this. This is their position in class. Their phones out and they heads down, and that's what they're doing. uh, Unfortunately, so we got, we're kind of all over the place talking about certain things, and it's just the reality of it all. No matter how you look at it, is the one thing I always say: we have to be consistent in what we do in all aspects. Uh, So even with health um, situations we talked about earlier, and even dealing with you know child drama, the issues in schools and our households and everything. Got a lot to take care of.
Yeah.
Let me see. Early says, Sir Tice, first of all, dude, if you
They're
believe
getting
he
into the
found
whole.
America,
Yeah, I left that one alone.
that you fucking believe. I don't fucking believe that nonsense. So to each his own.
That's almost like the him and the Eric discussion. I just those type of discussions I leave for debate because you it's almost like critical race theory. And the thing about that is this: you have some people that say, "Why do we need to waste time on critical race theory? It doesn't need to be taught. It doesn't need to be this. It doesn't solve anything." Well, if that's the case, then teach it. I mean, what do you stand to lose by gaining a different aspect of teaching somebody something that you say didn't happen or just say that didn't matter? I say teach it. To me, black parents should be teaching their kids this stuff any goddamn way. Why are you relying on the system to teach your kids about something that the system may not even care about?
Well, we do know that it's all fine and dandy for a lot of and not even shit families across the board that once they get to a certain level, a lot of the parents they don't know what the hell's going on, especially when you're talking about like math and those subjects. So once they get to higher level courses, if you wasn't one who did well and propelled yourself for greatness in those subject areas, what can you really do with a high school kid that's coming with stuff you ain't never seen or you don't remember? So it's hard for you to monitor that process, even at the middle school level. Once it gets past elementary, you may have some parents that are like, shit, I don't know, I don't understand. And that's why they rely on the schools to come up and they'll call. Y'all don't have no tutoring. Y'all don't have no after school programs because they know damn well. But then again, they don't really give homework like that. But I always tell the students, you got homework. And if you got all, unless you got all straight A's, you got homework. But they don't assign. We used to be assigned homework.
Yeah. That's why we love study halls because if we didn't do something in class, we got to finish in the study hall. We had to take it home. And see, this is to segue. This is why I think, especially in high school, I think that sports compelled students to work harder in class. Because if your academic progress wasn't commensurate with what the program needed, you couldn't play. And it's always been a driving force to compel the student athlete to perform better academically. I know when I played football and ran track and Lacelle, even though I was doing it on my own, I had to maintain at least a B average. And you better believe I did so without the impetus of my mother, father, or anybody else other than the desire to want to play sports.
See, even with that, like sometimes students would do enough to be eligible, but then after that, they went back into their old behaviors of not doing anything. Once basketball season or football season was over, they was assholes or not doing what they supposed to do. But unless you implement all of this stuff, even when you think about like the what is it, the college, the NCAA clearinghouse, and all of that stuff, like everything that you need to get cleared through the clearinghouse and all that stuff.
Okay.
And that was years ago when I used to have to do that, and it used to be a mess trying to look at the GPAs and this course scores goes towards that, and And so I could see where a lot of kids wouldn't make it through, especially if their high school counselor wasn't really on top of things.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of kids used to be in bad situations. They would have to sit out a year and stuff because
Yep.
um, that wasn't the main vocal point of a school as far as that.
Yeah. And that's the unfortunate part. You have some students, and this is I think this is what Anita was alluding to earlier, who do fall through those cracks, and it's really not due to anything that student did or didn't do. It's just the situation that they were born in, and ultimately, a kid can't really do much if he's born to parents that don't care like they should. A school district that you know does only what it's supposed to do and not go above and beyond. So I mean that happens. It happens with districts that are underfunded, understaffed. We saw that with the movie Lean on Me, and that was part of the reason why that movie was made, is to exemplify, you know, what a school can do if a school's committed. But that also takes, the commitment of that student. You can't be a C student looking for A grades, because an A grade student is going to put out A grade effort. A C student is only going to put out C effort. And that's not, to blame anybody. That's what it is. You're not going to run 100 meters in under 10.6 seconds if you only practice it 2 days a week. Conversely, somebody that's out there 5 days a week, they looking to run that 10.6. They stand a much better chance of running that 10, that 10.6. It's the law of averages. You get out what you put in.
Well, like I said, these conversations can go on, and I think at this point we probably gonna get ready to kind of wrap it up and call it a night, and look forward to our next conversation, because we'll be talking. It'll be 12, 1 o'clock, and we could go back and forth. But I'm not really trying to do that this evening. Lisa. So right now I need to have some self discipline and say goodnight, because I have the responsibility to wake up early for work. I need my beauty sleep.
Yeah.
Go ahead and
Beauty
get that
sleep. If
sleep.
that's the case, you should have went to sleep yesterday.
Damn. Damn. So so we're gonna give closing comments. Was only me and Herb. So what's your closing comment, Herb, with all that was discussed um, tonight?
I'm gonna read some lyrics from a song. Most of you, I doubt anybody knows the song anyway. Anybody, maybe Nuki's the only one that knows this. It's a song called
It's
Moon River.
probably from the freaking 1946 as
No,
the
actually, it's
movie.
it's from the movie Breakfast at Tiffany's, starring Captain Hepburn, I believe her name is. Anyway, the lyrics of Moon River. Moon River, wider than a mile. I'm crossing you in style someday. Oh, dream maker, you heartbreaker. Wherever you're going, I'm going your way. Two drifters off to see the world. There's such a lot of world to see. We're after the same rainbow's end, waiting around the bend. My huckleberry friend, Moon River and me. Now, what this meant was this: the river acts as a metaphor for love. That's why I used the analogy that I did. It describes as both a dream maker and a heartbreaker in the same line, emphasizing both the delight and the disastrous outcomes of relationships. Even knowing it could go badly, the narrator is still determined to follow their heart. What are you determined to follow? Are you going to be loyal? To who, to what, and why? And as always, growth and understanding occurs in the gray area. Godspeed. See you next time.
And the word loyalty is part of the theme for this week in the counselor's corner, like situations where it was loyalty, or maybe not so much loyalty, any of those things. So I don't know why, and that's why sometimes it don't even matter. I can put out stuff and at everyone, and people still want to do what they want to do as far as the post. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with the subject matter. And they're not about to talk me to death. I usually let them in on Friday evening, Friday night, and I have like 60 some posts that's in the hopper. But I'm like, could y'all just stick to a theme? And then we wonder why kids can't stick to anything. But I guess the closing comment, even when we think about the initial uh, statement about would you stay with your mate, it depends. I mean, I guess for most, you would say yes. Um, but you have to have a certain level of comfort and maturity, and depending on how long of situation you've been into, because sometimes should people jump into something, then all of a sudden something happens, and then you like, shit, we ain't even been together that long, and it's no way in hell I'm expected to be with that person. Then a lot of times you have some guys that they're using that as a they trying to catch. They try to catch with disabilities, and unfortunately, um, that happens too. So know who you are. I guess that's the most important thing. Know who you are and know what you can handle uh, before. If it's somebody you've been with and everything is fine, because we again, we can't, there's no right or wrong answer to this, because it's two people who play a role in it, so you never know how things end. The person with the disability, how are they acting, and how are you comforting them, how are they treating you. So there's no, to end it all, there's no conclusive answer. So for everybody to say yes, 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 I definitely will, where there's a bunch of people will say no because of these reasons. So you have to look at whatever you are comfortable with. How does it make you feel? And go from there. Because to death do us part, a lot of that stuff is cap. It's just something to say. That's why some people decide to write, do their own little, what is it called?
Vows.
Uh, Vows, and leave it out of the hands of descriptive stuff, because those vows may not be what the world is turning to in this day. So when you have your vows, you might have your own personal vows toward each other, stuff that y'all talked about, build upon, and it's not the same thing as what everybody else says and you're supposed to do. Because I can guarantee you, if you straight and you mentally sound, and somebody trying to drive you crazy and doing this, and then you have children that you trying to look after, and then that person becomes a big ass kid, another thorn to your side. But again, that's also based on finances too. You may not be able to go anywhere. Um, you can, but sometimes the one thing I understand about it all, people never want to leave their lifestyle. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. Even hustlers, drug addicts, or whatever the case, it's the lifestyle that make people stay and do what they want to do. So a lot of times people don't want to give that up and say, I'm going to take some shortcomings now and I'm going to build everything back up, because they don't want to get rid of the lifestyle. So lifestyle is the great decision making in a lot of things. a lot of ways that we make decisions. Just think about your lifestyle, people. Are you willing to give up some of it, or you say, hell no, I still got to be on top, and that might be your guiding decision on stuff. All right, good people, we out. On to the next one. Theme is loyalty this week. Loyalty situations in the counselor corner, or maybe situations that not loyalty. But we'll also have mistrust and all that stuff coming up too. So follow the theme. Stop just pressing buttons and think it's gonna get put through. I've been trying to do a good job of trying to weed stuff out. Some of them I go back and forth and I try let me twist and bend and I'll put it through. But a lot of them I just hold on to because some of y'all just be trying to be jackasses just to be jackasses and putting the same stuff through. And people getting tired of that narrative about the gender war. But unfortunately, I don't think it's going nowhere. It's sad to say. But we out on that note. Everybody have a good week. Be safe, be well, and we'll see you next time.
All right, people.
Peace.